friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. I am very excited today to talk to you about the books that I'm going to read, like my friend Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day. This project has been so much fun. Each month this year, I am choosing a BOOKTUBE friend and 3 books or so that match their reading tastes, and then reading them and seeing how much we have in common or don't have in common. I have been doing my best to choose books off of my shelves, which is another fun way to just read some more books that might not have been on my radar right away. And so far, it's been going really, really well, with a few exceptions. I have a lot of reading that's actually in common with Chantel, and I am really looking forward to choosing books to read like her. So what I know about Chantel is that she likes clean reads. She reads a lot of Christian fiction, but not the romance, so like the Christian suspense fiction. Or mysteries. She likes mysteries. She loves Agatha Christie. She likes fantasy. She likes Brandon Sanderson. She reads a lot of Christian nonfiction and homeschooling nonfiction and like parenting family nonfiction, and a lot of middle grade. Like, we just have a lot of overlap in our reads. So I think I picked a really good stack of books, and I was just like, hey, Chantel, these are the books I want to read like you. Do you feel like this represents your reading? She's like, yeah, those are great. So I did choose 3 books, and I'm already going to change one out because it is currently June 17th. We are in the midst of Catch-Up-a-thon, which is my book of the month readathon that I do with Amy's Bookish Life. And I just don't have a ton of time to read extra things. And I'll tell you why I'm changing one out in a moment. But right away, when I thought of Chantel, I thought of this middle grade, Forever or a Long, Long Time by Kayla Carter. This is a book that talks about foster care, and Chantel absolutely loves it. I already had this on my shelf when I heard her talk about it, but she made me want to read it even more. And so I'm very excited to pick up Forever or a Long, Long Time. It's all I know is that it deals with foster care, and Chantel and her family are a foster family, and they have had foster kids in their home, and she has talked about it on all of her channels to a little bit. So I'm just really excited to read this book that I know Chantel really, really loved. I picked up this is a Christian fiction kind of thriller suspense book about a cult. And I had this one by Tosca Lee. This is The Line Between by Tosca Lee. I had this one and I put it in a haul. And then Chantel actually sent me the second one in the book, which is A Single Light. So I'm like, I thought of Chantel immediately because she sent me the sequel to this one. So I wanted to start by reading the first one because I know that she likes this series very much. So in this one, we follow a young woman named Winter who is actually kind of cast out of this cult. So I am really excited to read a cult book, and I've actually already finished this one, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's the second Read Like Chantel book. And then the third one that I originally was going to read like Chantel is a nonfiction called Adorning the Dark by Andrew Peterson. And this is really just a Christian nonfiction about creativity. The tagline down here says, thoughts on community, calling, and the mystery of making. Andrew Peterson is the author of the Wingfeather Saga, which I've read the first one and really enjoyed, and I have the other 3, so I would like to read them as well. He's also a music artist, a singer-songwriter, and Chantel has talked about this book quite a bit on her channel. She really loved it. I think it was among her favorites or her favorite last year when she read it. So I've had this on my radar since then. However, I read nonfiction very slowly, and given that I'm only really going to have the last week of the month, I decided not to read this one right now. So then I got to thinking, I know Chantel really loves Brandon Sanderson, and I know she liked Skyward. So this was my next thought. I'll replace it with Skyward because this is one that I really want to read. It's a YA sci-fi Sanderson book. And I know it's been well loved by many, many people, including Chantel. But it is on the chunky side. And just as I was sitting down to film this intro, I thought of a better option. I already have this one on my TBR for July. And I wasn't going to use it for Read Like Chantel because I've announced that I'm planning on reading this one this month. And I liked to have these 3 books kind of be a little surprise, but I don't care. I'm going with an Agatha Christie. Mainly, I mean, obviously because it's already on my TBR. It's a Miss Marple, and I believe Chantel really likes Miss Marple ones. I know she likes all of Agatha Christie, really. And this is not the first Miss Marple. I thought it was. This is The Body in the Library. I think Murder at the Vicarage might be the first one, but this is the one that I have. And this is the one that was on my TBR. This is super short. I also have it on audio. I may try to read and listen at the same time. I don't know. But I feel like this is a much more doable choice to read like Chantel. So these are my final 3 books that I'm going to read like Chantel. The Line Between by Tosca Lee, Forever or a Long, Long Time by Kayla Carter, and The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. So let me know if you think those are accurate portrayals of Chantel's reading, if you already follow her and know what her reading is like. If those sound good to you and you're not already subscribed to Chantel Reads All Day, maybe you should pop on over there and subscribe, because I think this is a pretty good representation of her reading. So I'm really looking forward to reading like her this month, and I will check back in later to let you know what I already think about this one, and then I'll get started with these after Catch-Up-a-thon is over. Hi friends, I am back to talk about the 3 books I read like Chantel. And it's funny looking at my shelves, like there's a clear difference between this row here and below it. Above that row looks so good. And these are such a mess. Yikes. Oh, so I just posted today my second Unhaul series shelf organization video, and I'm so excited to do more because clearly they need it, but that's not what we're here about. I, in the past, have vlogged as I finished each of the books, but I did not do that for Chantel. I have finished all 3 of them, and I don't think I've made clips for any of them, so I'm just here to talk about all 3 of them. So sorry, this is a little different than the other videos in this series of Reading Like a BookTube Friend, but I did finish all 3, and I'm going to tell you what I thought about them, because it is now August. Nope, it is now September, and I chose Chantel's name in July. Yikes, I have been dragging my feet. So actually in July, I think before I even filmed my intro video for the video, I read The Line Between by Tosca Lee. I did this on a trip traveling back from my mom's house in New York. So I had a long trip and I was able to pretty much read the whole thing in one sitting. Almost. It was really good. So this book I chose because, as I've said already, Chantel likes books about cults, and this is a Christian fiction about cults. I have loved Iscariot by Tosca Lee, and this one was just okay for me. I enjoyed it while I was reading it. I was invested in the story. We follow, what's her name? Winter. We follow a young woman named Winter who has grown up as part of this cult called New Earth, which is a doomsday cult. And she, for reasons, has to leave the cult. She gets out, or she's kicked out, I think. And because she kind of questions things, which is not normal. She doesn't get as brainwashed as everybody else. And so because she's questioning things too much, she is kicked out, excommunicated, whatever. When she gets to the outside world, it is kind of like the start of a pandemic where people, for certain reasons, are getting early onset amnesia and dying really early. Early onset dementia, maybe that's what it is. I forget. But there's this pandemic that's spreading, and she becomes a part of that as well. So there's just a lot that's happening in this book. It was in high intensity, fast paced. I was invested in the story. But at the same time, like right now, I had to look up a summary to tell you what it was about. Given a lot has happened in my life since I read this in the middle of July. I've been to Nicaragua, I had COVID, like a lot has happened, but I just don't find it particularly memorable, but I did enjoy it while I was reading it. So do with that what you will. I think I ended up giving it 3.5 or even 4 stars maybe, because I did enjoy it while I read it, but definitely not a 5-star blow me away kind of a book. Then I didn't read my next Chantel book until after my trip to Nicaragua. So in August, while I was sick, I read a lot of books, and The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie is one of them. It was my first Miss Marple book, and it will not be my last. I really enjoy mysteries. I'm kind of in a season right now where I want to read a lot of mysteries, which is great because now it's series September and a lot of mysteries tend to be a part of series. But The Body in the Library, we follow this elderly couple who wake up one morning being told by the maid that there was a body discovered in their library. And the wife almost immediately calls Miss Marple to come over, they're friends. And this apparently I think is book 2, because Miss Marple had already solved a crime, and so the wife kind of wanted her to be there to see if she could figure things out as well. She seems to have a decent relationship with the inspector and the police force. They don't really interact too much, but of course it's Miss Marple who discovers everything, and the police even use her in a way to talk to people, that because she's an older woman, she might be able to get people to open up in a different way than they would to the police. So the police do use her to go and have conversations with people and stuff like that. So while she's not officially on the payroll, she works together with them to solve this mystery. I did not figure it out. I'm not very good at figuring out mysteries. I definitely was just kind of along for the ride. However, and in this one, early on, there was one character that was suspicious to me. Of course, they're all a little bit suspicious to me, but there was one character in particular, I'm like, she had something to do with it. And I was right about that. So that's all I'll say about this one. I really enjoyed getting back into an Agatha Christie. It's been a while since I've read one, and Chantel loves Agatha Christie. And I don't know if she's collecting all the books, but she's got a ton of them and has read a lot of them as well. So I was glad to read an Agatha Christie to match Chantel's reading. And finally, this is the one that I knew immediately I was going to put on my stack, and that is Forever or a Long, Long Time by Kayla Carter. I learned about this, I believe, because of Chantel. And this is a middle grade where we follow a brother and sister who were in foster care and are now adopted. But we really dive deep. It's written from the perspective of the older sister, and we dive deep into her thought process, and we get to see her trauma, really, of them being moved from home to home and how that affects her now, and her idea of family, her idea of trust, how it affects her in school, even moving on to the next grade. And it just was so well done. So well done. There were multiple parts of this where I just had to put the book down and really take a deep breath and remind myself that this is fiction, because it was breaking my heart. And being somebody who foster care and adoption has always been a part of my family's story. As I was growing up, we had babies, and I've adopted siblings in my family, and it's close to my heart. And this was so well done. Oh my word. I gave this 5 stars. It's a difficult read at times, and I've never personally been in the foster care system, but this just felt so realistic and heartbreaking. I really loved the adoptive mom and how she handled things. It wasn't perfect. None of the characters were perfect. They were flawed, and from the system, like from the social workers to the families to the parents to the kids, like all of them felt like very realistic characters and dealing with real issues. Oh my word. I just thought this was so good. I'm so glad that Chantel put this on my radar, and I'm so glad that I finally read it. I can't believe it took me this long, but this is definitely my favorite of the 3. And then I'll say the Agatha Christie was probably my second favorite, and The Line Between was third. But I did really enjoy all of them. I just think this is the one that's going to stick with me the longest, whereas these 2 aren't really going to stick with me, mainly because I was in the midst of my COVID situation when I read this one. And this one was just so long ago and clearly a little bit forgettable. So those are my Read Like Chantel books. I would love to hear from you if you have read any of these. What did you think about them? If you also watch Chantel Reads All Day, do you think this represents her reading? I would love to hear that. I am so loving this project and reading like some of my BookTube friends. So yay. I'm glad that I've completed that, and now I can move on to August, even though it's now September. Let's chat in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on these 3 books, or if you have read anything that you were inspired by Chantel to read, let's chat about that. If you don't watch her channel, she's definitely going to be linked in the description. I would highly recommend it. She's fantastic. All right, I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.